I almost didn't go to my ex-girlfriend's wedding. In fact, I had already decided to throw the invitation away when she sent me a message that changed my mind. It said, "Please come. You deserve to know the truth." I stared at that message for almost an hour because Claire had spent the previous 2 years telling everyone that I was the reason our relationship ended, and now she wanted me sitting somewhere in the same room while she married the man she had cheated on me with. I should have blocked her and moved on, but something about that message bothered me, so I went. Claire and I had met in college. At first, she was my best friend, and eventually she became my girlfriend. For almost 3 years, we were inseparable. We talked about everything, from the kind of house we wanted someday to the places we wanted to travel, and even the names we might give our children. I genuinely believed she was the person I was going to marry. Then, slowly, she started changing. She became protective of her phone, disappeared for hours, and started giving me explanations that never quite made sense. I asked her more than once if there was someone else, and every time she looked me directly in the eyes and told me no. Then one night, I found out about Daniel. I didn't confront her immediately. I waited until she came home, put her phone on the kitchen counter, and asked her if she was happy with him. She started crying almost instantly. She told me she was sorry and that she didn't know how it had happened, but then she said something that destroyed whatever hope I had left. She said, "You're a good person. I just don't love you anymore." I moved out 2 days later, changed my number, and stopped checking her social media. It took months, but eventually I built a life that didn't revolve around her. About 18 months later, the wedding invitation arrived. Claire was marrying Daniel, the same man she'd cheated with. I couldn't understand why she wanted me there, but then I remembered her message. "Please come. You deserve to know the truth." The wedding was being held at a small hotel outside the city. When I arrived, Claire's mother saw me almost immediately. Instead of being angry or uncomfortable, she walked over, hugged me, and quietly said, "I've been waiting for you." Before I could ask what she meant, she disappeared into the crowd. A few minutes later, Claire walked into the room. She looked beautiful, but the moment she saw me, her expression changed. Daniel noticed her reaction and turned around to look at me. The strange thing was that he didn't look angry. He looked terrified. The ceremony began, and for the first few minutes, everything seemed completely normal. Then the officiant asked Daniel to say his vows. Daniel looked at Claire, then looked directly at me and said, "I promised I'd tell him eventually." The room went completely silent. Claire immediately stood up and told him not to do this, but Daniel reached into his jacket and pulled out a small envelope. He walked toward me and handed it over. Inside was a photograph of me standing outside my old apartment. I recognized the night immediately because Claire had told me she was working late until midnight. The photograph showed her getting into Daniel's car at 9:14 that evening. I looked at Daniel and asked why he was showing me this. He didn't answer. Instead, he handed me another photograph, then another. There were dozens of them. Claire and Daniel at restaurants, hotels, parking lots, and even outside places that I had personally taken Claire to. Their affair hadn't started near the end of our relationship like I had believed. It had started almost a year before I discovered it. Then Daniel told me something that made everything even worse. Claire hadn't originally planned to stay with me. She had planned to leave, but she discovered that I was about to receive a major promotion that would significantly increase my income. According to Daniel, she decided to stay with me because she wanted access to the life I was building. I looked at Claire, expecting her to deny it, but she didn't. She was crying. Then she said, "That's not the whole story." Claire explained that Daniel had been blackmailing her. He had secretly recorded their conversations and threatened to send everything to her family and her employer if she refused to marry him. She had been planning to escape him, but she was afraid of what he would do. Daniel looked furious and told her to stop talking, but Claire pulled out her phone and played a recording. Daniel's voice came through the speakers. He wasn't talking about Claire. He was talking about me, my salary, my investments, and the promotion I had received. He had been researching my finances for months. He had apparently planned to use Claire's marriage to gain control over her money and eventually get access to mine through her. I thought that was the end of the secrets, but Claire then handed me another envelope. My name was written on it in her handwriting. I opened it and saw that the letter had originally been written almost 5 years earlier, long before our relationship ended. The first sentence said, "If you're reading this, everything went exactly as I expected." I couldn't understand what she meant. The letter explained that Claire had suspected Daniel was dangerous almost from the beginning. She said she had realized he was obsessed with controlling people, and she was afraid that if she simply left him, he would come after her. She believed staying close to me had somehow kept him from targeting me directly. That didn't explain the cheating or the lies, and she admitted that she had made terrible decisions, but she claimed that there was another reason she had never told me the truth. She believed Daniel was watching me. I looked at Claire and asked her why she had waited 5 years to tell me. She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed toward the entrance of the hotel. Daniel was gone. She told me that he wasn't supposed to know I was coming to the wedding. The invitation had been her attempt to make sure that if something happened to her, someone outside their relationship would know exactly who was responsible. I left the hotel immediately. I got into my car, locked the doors, and drove home. About 10 minutes into the drive, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. The first message said, "You should have stayed out of our relationship." A few seconds later, another message appeared. "Now I know where you live." I pulled over and stared at the screen. That's when I finally understood why Claire had invited me. She wasn't trying to get me back. She wasn't trying to apologize. She had been trying to make sure someone knew what Daniel was capable of before she disappeared from his life. The wedding was canceled that night. Daniel disappeared before the police could find him, and Claire moved away a few weeks later. I never saw either of them again. For a long time, I thought the worst thing an ex could do was break your heart. Now I realize that sometimes the person who hurts you is hiding a completely different story behind the betrayal. And sometimes, the person you thought destroyed your life may have been trying, in the worst possible way, to keep you from becoming part of something even darker. I still don't know how much of Claire's story was true. Maybe she really was trying to protect me. Maybe she was simply trying to protect herself and used me as an excuse. But there is one thing I know for certain. The night I went to my ex's wedding, I expected to watch her marry another man. Instead, I discovered that the person I thought I knew had been keeping a secret from me for years. And somewhere between the photographs, the recordings, and that final message on my phone, I realized that I hadn't actually escaped my old relationship when I left. I had only stopped seeing what was happening behind it.